wanted. If I wanted the same thing or something different.
What's going on there, Super Truckers? Just putting along here, I-84 through Oregon. I figured as long as nothing changes, I should get myself a little filming of me going down Cabbage Hill. So, the east side of Cabbage is boring. I mean, it's beautiful. It's all this what you're seeing now. But the south side, it's a hill. It's funny how it looks, right? It's a lot of the, I guess, the mountains. I mean, they are probably, when you talk about elevation, they're probably mountains. But a lot of the mountains in kind of eastern and central Oregon and Washington, they just look like giant hills. Like they're kind of. A lot of them are, the mountains are just grass on them, like they're not like this, right? They're not mountainous and full of trees. And Cabbage is kind of like that on the other side. Like it looks, first off, it looks deceptively smaller than it is because it's not a craggy mountain with white, snow-capped peaks or anything like that. But it also, when you're standing there at the top of it, kind of resembles almost like you're dropping off a cliff. There's a pretty incredible view distance, you're high enough up and it's just open at the bottom, like it's just flat. So it kind of just opens up to this big, tall view of, almost like you're driving on top of a bridge or something and looking off the edge of it. Like it's very, it's interesting in how kind of abrupt it is. So, but I got to wing it into a truck stop at the bottom of the hill and throw some fuel in the truck. So I figured this would be a good video as any to kind of get in there and, see how things are going to go. So I'm still technically climbing. This is kind of like the plateau at the top. It's up and down a little bit, but it's, up here I can pretty much maintain, turn the cruise on and just run at speed. So it'll be off when we get to the other end. But the nice thing is, and it's why I think from now on, I mean, again, unless something were to come along, I'm probably going to be putting Cummins motors in my trucks. I've got about 18,300 pounds on, which is admittedly not a lot. But I've gone through Fancy Gap and stuff like that out on the southeastern U.S. With a full load or slightly heavier than legal, hauling steel and stuff. And the engine brake has been able to hold the truck back all the way down the hill. So what I'll probably find here on Cabbage, once we start going down on the other side, I'll get rid of cruise control, let the engine brake do its thing, and just kind of alternate between the third stage and the second stage of engine brakes. Right, so the third stage, it's I gotta look into which method of braking Cummins uses, because I think they close the intake valves, so the truck will exhaust, but nothing's firing in the cylinder. Or no, they shut everything because it's back pressure. Either way, the engine brake on the Cummins is really good, so it'll alternate between shutting down all 6 cylinders and shutting down 4 of them, and that'll be the easiest way to get down the hill. Beyond that, I delivered this morning in Boise, Idaho. I did, in fact, get there last night, which is always good. I actually got there with almost a half an hour, 27 minutes or something to spare. I was actually kind of proud of myself. Back to the dock and shut her down for the night. This might be a touch personal, but something I've kind of learned, as I've been driving truck, is that you really don't want to stop somewhere where you don't have access to a bathroom. I think that's doubly so for people with IBS. I have IBS, or I guess other people with maybe other conditions, Crohn's, or I don't even know if Crohn's has anything to do with going to the bathroom. But I felt the beginnings of the need to use the bathroom on the east end of Boise, so I go in and use the rest area. And I guess whomever used the bathroom before me practice the hover technique. So you just never actually plant the cheeks on the toilet bowl or on the toilet seat. But he had like explosive diarrhea, so the toilet was just coated. As of now, I turned around and went right back out. So I got there, I felt good, had dinner, started playing video games, and just kind of started to feel some pain in my stomach. I'm like, oh no. So I dropped what I was doing. I was trying to play video games, but it was hard to focus. I just shut it all off, went to bed, slept for like 10 hours, woke up, and by then the customer had shown up so I could use the bathroom. But it's always a fear, right? That you'll be caught somewhere where, again, if you were like out here in the middle of nowhere or one thing or something, like again, if you really gotta, like, I've got shop towels. If I have to if I have to go and there's nowhere to go, I'll wander down the hill into the woods and go against a tree, right? If I absolutely have to. But I know to the right of me, it's a forest. There's nothing in there. But I'm in the middle of town. I'm in the middle of Boise, Idaho. So it's not like you can really, I'm sure some people can and probably do. But I know I certainly cannot just, start firing out turds everywhere I go, right? It's always kind of nerve-wracking. So while I like the fact that I can park there for the night, it's always a little bit sketchy because I never know for sure. Sometimes I might kind of discover I have to go to the bathroom, but not have, I guess advance notice, for lack of a better way to put it. But it was good. Every time I've been there, I've been okay. The customer's really good. It seems like he gets a slightly an above average number of deliveries that have something wrong with them. So my first delivery, the shipper had informed him that there was a piece on my trailer that was not on my trailer. I had all my paperwork. My load was exactly as my paperwork said it was. But he was informed that there was more stuff on there. So he was like, I mentioned it yesterday with some shippers and receivers. I really like the guy because, he's good at, he doesn't turn to the driver and start giving the driver grief for something that, he knows that I have no control over what's loaded on a trailer that I don't load, right? The trailer is sealed before I pick it up. I know what's on the trailer more or less because at this point I pretty much always know what we're taking out of here and we're taking into the States, and also because, I've got it on paperwork. Like, I've got the bills of lading and everything. I just can't physically see what's in the trailer. So I can't physically see how it's loaded, right? So the first time he was missing some stuff, it was actually loaded on my dad's trailer, and he was like 2 days behind me. The next time I went there, I had too much stuff, and I told that story already. I had stuff that was meant to go to someone that we're not a carrier for. And again, he found it amusing. The third time, there were no problems. This time, he got too much stuff again. As he was telling me, and this is like where I think, like, a lot of people, like, I watched, I looked at, a buddy of mine put a Facebook post out today. There was I think a Twitter post or something from, I guess, I don't know, I've never heard of the person before, but I guess a semi-prominent conservative lady that, made an argument about how, like, liberals don't understand, I have to work to eat, but, like, you shouldn't have to, like liberals want someone else to work so that they can eat. Well, neither of these are true, right? But, the guy that posted it made the point, well, like, a lot of this stuff can be automated, and some of it can, but there's again, he's speaking as someone that doesn't, he's not involved in the logistics industry. Fuck, he went for a bit of a tour. Right into the middle. What was I gonna say? Yeah, like, he's a former U.S. Marine, and now he runs a lightsaber shop. So he might understand a little bit about shipping and receiving because he ships and receives lightsabers. But he said, like, a lot of stuff can be automated. Yes and no. Like, the problem that, especially like just using North America as an example, kind of faces is like you kind of end up running into like one will happen before the rest of, I guess in this case, society catches up, right? So what will happen is they'll release a foolproof automation for, say, like cashiers at Walmart. Walmart will replace every cashier with an automated cashier, and they'll fire all the cashiers that were there. Well, society hasn't adapted to a point where those cashiers don't need to work to function in society, to work, right? Society doesn't just suddenly do a massive paradigm shift into, okay, tomorrow everything's automated, everybody's off work, and we all just live in a utopia. Like that's not how. I mean, it could be how our society could work. That there's nothing physically stopping a system like that from being implemented. But human beings are very fallible, and for the most part, greedy. So that system won't change. Like they won't, we won't suddenly get a utopia where we don't have to work the day we automate everything, right? There is also a lot of stuff that cannot be automated, right? Again, my industry, right? There's been lots of talk. There's been talk for years about a lot like driverless trucks and increasing automation, and the reality is, I think that you're not going to have a robot, right? Unless you build like a sophisticated AI with at or near human thinking capacity, at least with regards to trucking. Like a lot of the driverless truck systems they've tried, right? It can drive the truck, it can follow the map, it can go from one part of the country to the other, right? But implementing systems that are like random systems, right? Does the computer know when it's icy? Will the computer know how to drive if it starts to get pulled into the snow? What happens if a guy brake checks it or cuts him off, right? There's a lot of different variables that a human brain is capable of dealing with, where at least as far as I've seen in computers and technology, a computer is not. And that kind of, I think there's that kind of, we'll just automate everything, it'll be great. It's like, but I don't think you understand that that's not, first off, it's not an easy thing to automate. Secondly, that leaves a lot of people out of work, and like I said, the system won't just immediately change to support those people that are out of work. So, and I mean, again, it's a kind of that, this is the frustration with a lot of stuff, right? Is everybody's okay with somebody else making the sacrifice. Because the argument is yes, like your truck drivers will lose your jobs and probably your livelihoods and your chance at a life, but you want to make an omelet, you gotta break a couple eggs. It's like, and it's okay. It's easy for people to go for that when they're just when it's somebody else's eggs breaking, but not their own, right? And that's where it gets frustrating. It's like, you're not a truck driver. You've never been one, right? You have no idea how trucking works. You have no idea how intertwined like my life and my financial, my living situation is with the amount of work available to me, right? If they automate half the industry and suddenly I only get 50% of the work, I go bankrupt, right? Because I can't afford to pay for this truck. And I think most people would, like anybody that owns their own truck would be out. And again, that's another one. Well, everyone will just have to drive a company truck. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't fix guys that own their own trucks. Because again, you implement that system, well then they have nobody to sell their truck to, because nobody's going to buy a truck. So then, again, everybody who owns their own truck is going to be required to drive a company truck. And again, I'm certain that nobody is talking about increasing driver wages. So I go from making $1, I'm making $1.65 a mile, to 55 cents a mile. I lose over $1 of income per mile, but I still got to make my truck payment because nobody's going to buy it off me. And that isn't a system. Again, it's a system where I will have to just give up on a future for the betterment of society. And again, I don't think that's fair, especially when it comes to that sort of scenario. Now again, like, if it's the same, like, you know, babies. I think what people will see is we won't really get true driverless truck technology at any point, I'm certain. I think what we'll get is just they'll start implementing more laws with regards to fuel efficiency, or they'll start with incentivizing, then start mandating you know, alternative fuel vehicles and stuff like that. And I mean, again, if Tesla were to release a hybrid or fully electric truck that could do the job equally as well, right, as the truck I have right now, right? I mean, better is irrelevant, but at least as well as what I do now, and the infrastructure is there. Because again, if they, you can buy this Tesla electric truck, and we've got 16 fueling locations across, the Midwestern U.S. Well, that doesn't do me any good when I'm out here, right? There needs to be electric truck fueling stations at every truck stop. You still need that level of infrastructure, right? Because I know, and now granted, it's been revealed to be a complete sham, but I know the Nikola truck was advertised at having, I think it was a 500 or 550 mile range, and then required, I think it was a 30 minute or a 60 minute charge. And again, that isn't really, like, that's not going to work. City work, yeah, absolutely. Like short haul in if you're in Toronto, New York, like Chicago, any city work, perfect, right? You'll put less than 500 miles on the truck in the day, and you can have the charging stations at the yard. So when you're done for the day, you park in your parking spot, you plug the trunk in, you go home. But for highway use, right? Again, right now, most truck stops have around like 8 to 12 fuel islands, depending on like bigger truck stops. So it takes the average diesel powered truck probably from the time I pull the brake to the time I start rolling ahead, probably about 10 minutes, depending on how much fuel's in there. So that, right, that's fine, right? But then you said you have other trucks now, you're waiting 20 or 30 minutes, you're in a line, there's two guys in front of you. Well, now imagine that if it takes 30 minutes to fill the truck, right? That means that if you pull into a truck stop and all the pumps are full, right, you're likely at least 30 minutes, if not more, depending on how busy it is, to get your fuel. So that's a huge waste of your day. You could be upwards of an hour to an hour and a half waiting, and then you got to sit in the fuel island and get fuel, right? So I've always been very supportive of clean energy technologies. I do believe that we need to find some way to stop generating as much pollution as we do. There needs to be, like, the system kind of does need to be implemented, like, completely and utterly with all of the all of the infrastructure. So now we're on Cabbage, or we're on Cabbage the whole time, but now we're on the downhill split. So you can see a big, I mean, you can't even really see it on the phone. There's a giant valley in front of me, or just it's open and flat. But we're at a really high altitude, and it's just switchbacks down the hill. But the whole quote-unquote mountain is just that brown grass that's in front of you. So it looks like a fucking hill, but it's, it is a great big friggin' mountain, I guess. I guess it is a mountain. It's fucking wild. It's called Cabbage Hill, or that's the name for it. I don't think that's the official name for it. That's what it is. But yeah, like going down here, like again, I'm accelerating right now because it's not, because of the switchbacks, it's not particularly steep. But you can see, if I zoom in, like that's all the way down at the bottom of the hill, way out there. So I got this huge view of this, of space that is way underneath me, right? Like I always love going down this hill because there's just such a cool view. It's sort of alien looking, like you know, you're on the top of the hill and you're looking down at just a big brown, you know, it's a valley of just grass. It's just kind of relatively flat grass, and it just looks cool. Like I've always liked coming down this hill. You know, it's much better today because the weather's a lot nicer. Last time I went down here, it was raining, and last time over Cabbage is when I had to throw tire chains. And like I can see the interstate going straight west at the bottom of the hill, but I got like multiple zigzags, like way before I get there, kind of thing, right? Like I don't know, it's really cool. I really like this hill. I actually do have to touch the brake pedal a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say that. Like I would probably comfortably go down here at 60, but I don't really want to go down here just flying by everybody in the left lane. So the guy in front of me wants to do like somewhere around 55, so that's kind of where I'll stick it out. Like you can see the road down there, that's the other part of the switchback going the other way, right? So it's all, you know, it's just a cool hill. There's just lots of view or visibility, kind of neat scenes like this kind of little gorge and stuff. Like I said, and again, the whole hill looks like this right in front of me. Like it's just grass, right? It's all like there's a farmer sent cows through there because there's a fence over there, right? Like it's neat. Like I said, I don't know how else to describe it, to be honest, other than neat, cool, or whatever. Like, it's always interesting to come through here, and again, it's nice because once I get down here, for the most part, it gets pretty flat, so I can just kind of, you know, I've spent pretty much since I started my day, you're climbing hills or going around twisty curves. It's not completely flat at the bottom of the hill, but it does level out quite a bit. The only thing I really wouldn't want to do is have to go up this hill. And luckily, I'm usually, I don't think I climbed this hill. I feel like I've climbed this hill once. But again, we're usually like, you know, when I deliver, I'll go north or south, likely south, like into California to get a reload. So I'm not really gonna come back up here and then go this way, right? Like if I go down to California, you know, if I'm in Sacramento or something, I'll go across 80 and go straight across 80 all the way home. I'm secretly kind of hoping that I get asked to come down to our yard in Rancho Cucamonga, just so that I can, like, for a while go out the bottom. Like, I'll go out through, like, the bottom, like Highway 10 out through, like, New Mexico and everything. And then, likely go north to Albuquerque and then across 40 or 44, I can't remember which one it is. Run that through Texas and everything. Like northern Texas and like Oklahoma and Missouri might kind of suck right now. I know Missouri got a whack of snow and Oklahoma's flat, so we get a lot of wind. But it's just a change of scenery at the very least, right? So, well, we'll see. I know I got to contact tomorrow morning once I'm delivered. I got to contact our Rancho Cucamonga dispatch and see what they got planned, or if they have a plan. I know my Rancho dispatch, they're kind of bad for, like, you know, like, tell us right now what time you think you're going to be here. And I honestly don't fucking know. I have to Google it again, and then I have to factor in a reset. Right? So I usually just hold on. Give me a minute, I got to figure it out. Right? So, I mean, they're good guys, but, like, they're trying to predict things and figure things out. They know that pretty much anywhere, because they're, like, I mean, LA isn't the southernmost point of California, but it's not that far from it. I'm not gonna do 65. I was gonna go up to 60, 68 again. I don't think we need to be doing that. Even though we're at the bottom of the hill, but I'm getting off. I feel like it's 216 was the truck stop. I'm pretty sure it's this next exit. But I don't have the thing up, so I can't remember. But I see a sign for, like, a fuel stop sign up there. With the red and green numbers for how much the fuel price is. It's been getting to be a pain in the ass because the fuel prices are going up. So, like, they're getting a lot of like 260, 270, over $3 a gallon. It's like, I can't afford that shit. So here, the Arrowhead Plaza, it's $2.25, I think is when I last looked. Yeah, it is here because there's Arrowhead signs. And it's funny, the exit's a mile away. When I mean, the camera probably can't see it, but I can see the exit. Right, so that's right down there. That's a mile from here. Right, so that's always fun too. Where was it? Yeah, Oregon has a fuel permit system, right? So in the state of Oregon, and it was a source of confusion for my dad and I, because in the state of Oregon, you get fuel, they ask you, what's your fuel permit number? And if you have a fuel permit number, that's gay old time, okay. And fuel is, again, it's usually the number that's advertised, but it's, it could be, like I said, like 220 or 225. If you say you do not have a fuel permit, then the fuel price usually goes up by anywhere from 10 to 20 cents per gallon. This place is the first place I've been to when I told them I didn't have a number. They seemed like their eyes widened. They seemed kind of surprised. So, what do you mean? Well, I guess they had a conversation because there's again the scale at the top of the hill. They were talking to the local DOT, and I have since confirmed this. But trucks operating in the state of Oregon are supposed to have that fuel permit. You're not legally allowed to operate in the state without that permit. However, like, truck stops and stuff, they're not the police, they're not DOT, so they can't force people. Like, they're not gonna like restrain you and fucking call the cops on you, kind of thing, right? So they charge a lot more for fuel in an effort to encourage people to pay for the permit, right? So I immediately call our companies. I'm like, fuck, like if we're driving around here with a fuel permit, especially when we're in Oregon as often as we are, and that's where I found out, no, we have a fuel permit. It's all done. The fuel permit's there. You got to, when they ask you for your permit number, it's your license plate number, because it all ties back to our company. I can't remember if it's, no, this isn't the entrance, I don't think. Go ahead and look at the right, yeah. So that's how I found out that I have a fuel permit. My dad doesn't quite understand it. So like every time he talks about getting fuel in Oregon, he tells me, make sure you do what you got to do to trick them into giving you the cheap fuel. I was like, I'm not tricking anybody. I have a permit. We have the permit. It's connected to our, like I said, to our plate number. So it's, it was kind of funny, but it's also helpful because it means that, well, it's frustrating because it means that for the first, roughly 50% of the time I've been working at this company, I was paying higher prices for fuel and I didn't need to. However, it is nice because it means, now at least I know that I get fuel at whatever their cheaper advertised rate is, and I'm okay with this. I gotta go out to the end. No, that's all packed pride. I can't go back. I mean, I probably could. Pacific Pride's one of the few stops I've gone to where like I can pay with my credit card and pay for the entirety of the fuel purchase. A lot of places you pay at the pump with your credit card. It'll authorize you $150 or something like that. Where here it'll give me everything, but I got to go inside and prepay anyway. So I think I'm pretty. Yeah, these pumps are slightly off center, so I'm going to try to balance, make sure that I can get at both pumps or both tanks from both sides. So I'm going to end it here because I'm going to go inside and make sure that I can get some fuel and then carry on. So you guys make good choices, and look at this hillbilly. Just the top of his hat. Not hillbilly, he's a USMC hat. He's probably, maybe former military, I don't know. It's hard to tell half the people out here, but I will just assume. Alright, so you guys have fun. Love you all, bye.